on this computer. A couple quick things is we're really grateful that we can actually have the meeting. Chris, we're sorry that you're not with us. Certainly it's like we were looking forward to being together, to have fellowship, to eat together, to worship together, and then for you to get to know us all as a community. We're doing the next best thing, which we've gotten used to doing over the last 2 years. So thank God for that. And so we have a wonderful group of individuals here that come together as a family. And we have, why don't we kind of go around the room? I will hold the, and you can introduce yourselves, say your name, and we'll start with our, the senior member of our community who's present in this room.
Okay. Pleased to meet you.
Good to meet you. Thank you.
Yes, and thank you for all what you have done for us up to this point, and we're looking forward to.
We've only just begun. So as they say, the journey of 1,000 miles starts by taking the first step. Or
Exactly.
Yaya used to say, "Fasuli, fasuli, yata yumisa to sakuli." So we do both.
One thing, yeah.
Okay.
So this is Walter Millars. And next to Walter,
George Buskus, we've been together on the committee meeting. Zoom.
Good, George. Good to see you, George.
and he's wearing Villanova because they're playing at 6, so we have to be done well before 6. All right.
First things first, right?
And you, Father George, of course.
Good to see you again, Chris.
Hey, Father.
And
Steve, nice to see you again, Chris.
Good to see you.
Frank Malice becoming.
Hey, Frank.
Live.
Thank you.
Chris, I'm George of Stados. Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you.
Parish Council.
Leah Pateras, co-chairperson with Maria Potidis on the capital campaign.
Maria Yanidis.
Well, we're gonna get you both canonized.
yeah, to become saints, right? That's a
Exactly.
Brian Sacco, hello again, Chris.
Hey, Brian. How you doing?
But how are you?
Hi, Chris.
Hey,
Peter
guy.
Lacopoulos. Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you.
he's our younger member of the gathering today, but definitely a huge part of our community. He's a PK and a priest kid, so yeah. I'm biased. I love PKs, so and he's among my sons. So I have 4 sons, my own 2, and Peter and John. So,
That's an elite group, right?
well, yeah. And then,
I'm Peter's mother.
yeah, Rajitara, Bula,
Good to see you.
Hi, Chris.
and Dory.
Hey, Dory, how are you?
Good. Hi, Chris. Athena Sacco. I'm on the
It's not
capital
working,
campaign
so- oh, thank
committee.
Oh, great. Well,
Good.
it's wonderful that you've sorted to have the capital campaign people be female human beings, participants, because I have this history of orthodoxy and history of Christianity that starts with, the beginning, but at Calgary, there was, one guy by the name of John, and there was two gals or 3 gals, Pania with 2 Marys. So you have that, and then you have Constantine and Helen, and I'd always mix them up when I was growing up because I always thought Helen was the saint, and she was really the saint. Constantine was an emperor, so he had certainly the saintly tendencies, but he was hardly a saint. And then you have Justinian and Theodora. Theodora is the one that made everything happen there in terms of Hagia Sophia. Don't run. He was going to run from the Nika riots and all that kind of stuff. And then you get to Olga and Vladimir, which is more current history with Ukraine and Kiev. And Vladimir was told by Yaya, Olga, Vlad, we don't have a religion. We're pagans. So as a result of this, he said, okay, Yaya, grandma, I'm going to appoint a committee to get her off his back. Well, she made sure the committee was appointed, and they made a trip to Mecca to view Islam. They went to Jerusalem to see Judaism. They went to Rome to see Western Christianity, and they ended their trip in Constantinople where they saw Hagia Sophia. And that incredibly powerful quote that is written in history, defining that moment where they were in Hagia Sophia and experiencing not only the architecture, the environment, but the liturgy. And they said, we did not know whether we were in heaven or earth, but we knew that God dwelled there with the people. Their services surpass all that we have seen. We cannot describe the beauty. This is from Vladimir's emissaries, the people who accepted Christianity in the land of the Rus before Moscow was even on the map. In fact, Vladimir and Kirill, Patriarch Kirill's relatives were in caves when Christianity took root in Kiev. So there's a journey that we have and a responsibility. And when we deal with a village that is Holy Trinity, Egg Harbor Township, and this church village, we as people are witnesses, but the buildings are witnesses. And we're here to help you take the challenge of rebuilding and make your church a witness and make you all witnesses. And the process, we're going to describe the process, but before I get into that, we have a 3-track process, and you've identified part of it in the capital campaign. Fundraising and finance are part of the package, but we're working with the planning and the design committee, which is working on planning design to be able to look at the technical issues and the costs and the benefits and the options and the possibilities. And we had a great meeting this morning with some of the founders who gave birth to the parish and gave birth to the building that we're working on and we're focused on. But the third element, because Greek Orthodox do things 3 times whether you need to or not, right? So we have planning and design, we have fundraising and finance, and we have communication. And communication to me is akin to the Holy Spirit. And you guys have done a great job. I mean, the flyers that you've sent out and things that you're doing, but we have to keep the rhythm of communication, and the communication starts with us. I mean, starts within the committee, starts with the parish council, starts with the capital campaign, so that there's this action that is happening, this energy that is brewing. And when you think about the fact that there was this Jewish carpenter with a bunch of his friends who, it's like dropping a pebble in the water and seeing the ripple effect. Think about the ripple effect of Christ and his disciples and what happened. And that to me is such a powerful statement. So you all have an incredible mission in front of you, but I have all the confidence with the quality of the people we've been working with and talking with and defining the challenge with. You're up to the challenge. And in back of me, the background that there is a project that we're doing in Omaha, Nebraska. We have worked with this client for 15 years. They were part of St. John's, which is the main, bigger Greek Orthodox parish in Omaha. They had a permission to create a mission parish. They broke off, and we've worked with them on little projects. They finally bought 30 acres, and they subdivided it and sold part of it to a Montessori school, part of it to senior housing, part of it to rental housing, part of it to single family housing. And so they have a number of different housing groups with small neighborhood commercial. They kept 8 acres out of the 30, and they sold it off for $5 million. And they have $5 million sitting in the bank to build basically a $7 or $8 million project. They're going to build a 25 to 30,000 square foot project with a church and center. They don't call it a hall, they call it a community engagement venue, because they want to engage the community within their parish, but outside their parish. So it's both in-reach and outreach. And this is the kinds of things that we're seeing. Orthodox parishes that are on the move, that's what they're doing. They're not only growing within, but they're witnessing Orthodoxy to the outside world. And we're seeing incredible activity and growth all over America. So if a parish like this is all Holy Spirit in Omaha, Nebraska, with 110 stewards, they're going to build a 30,000 square foot project, and they've used their brains and their giving to make it happen with a little bit of help from their friends like us. You know, the possibilities are immense. So what we wanted to do today was kind of just define the process, and the process is basically besides the fundraising activity, which we can coordinate with and we can help you with, and then the communication activity, which is also going to seed the environment to spread the word. I mean, this again goes back to the story of Christianity and Christ and his disciples. Drop the pebble in the water and watch the ripples. So that if we have a rhythm of communication and we have good things to communicate, then we can have positive results in terms of stewardship and fundraising. So with that, what I wanted to do is just walk you through kind of a little presentation that we've put together that kind of gives you an overview. And if there's, before we get into that, if there's any questions or comments or things you know that might be on your mind, I'm certainly open, and there may be more questions when you get through seeing the presentation.
Did anyone have any opening questions or anything that anyone wanted to raise?
If you want to know about knee replacement, I can talk about that too.
You mentioned this morning, how did it go this morning with your family?
Oh, sure. So the founding, I came away very enthusiastic. Father George was there, Chris. I thought the meeting it went beautifully, as well as we could expect. We had, I'll list the names of people, Paul Jumikaris, Tom Thanasoulis, Peter Matulis, Jimmy Costas, and then Yanni Kiriakou, who wasn't an original, but he knows the building as well as anyone.
And Chris George.
And Chris Georges was also in on that. And so they went through, Chris went through some of the things that he's going to talk about now, but also looked at the plans of the church, the original plans, and we talked about some and a number of kind of issues about how it was built, what some of the issues were in terms of the slabs, the foundations, and other things. I talked to Chris Georges afterwards, and he did say, he said to me, he goes, that meeting, we were back in 1982. They were just talking the way they always talk. He was the same questions, the same issues. There was some issue about memory. Not everything could be remembered. So I think Peter Matulis has photographs that we're going to look at. We also have to reach out to the township. Hopefully they have an archive of original, because we have asked the questions about geotechnical and other things, studies. So I think one of your goals, Chris, was to gain as much data and information, even to kind of help the process. We're going to kind of, I think, make sure we get the right information before you step forward, and we're going to do other studies as well. But it's good to have that at this moment in time.
No, that's a good synopsis, but I think it's akin to a doctor would not operate without x-rays or CAT scans or proper tests. And when there's lack of memory, because the drawings that have been given to us are not complete. So, you know, both Frank and Tom sort of commented on them and told us how we can make adjustments. But this is both a medical procedure as well as an archaeological procedure to be able to put together what you have, because if we can transform and rebuild on the foundation of what was done before in a positive way and give you, you know, achieve the goals, and we'll talk a little bit about the goals, that's a win-win. So the issue too was that when we had the meeting to do a lot of listening, because these people were there in the trenches, and I thought that it was very illuminating, but also they were discovering that there were some slips of memory about whether this wall was cinder block or whether it was a double wall or a single wall. But I think in the end, everybody got the gist of what we were trying to do, and everybody was very excited about helping technically get the memory up to speed. But also, we're also suggesting some things that I think Tom and I and Father didn't anticipate about. The church should be prominent. The hall should not be the most prominent feature on the site. I mean, and they went on about things like that. And also even in terms of suggestions about program, about, we put in the program that we're going to review with you a little bit, the option of a loft, because the loft is a way, we don't put choirs in lofts anymore, because if you do that, there's a couple of reasons. One is that you automatically need to have an elevator. Secondly, it's not acoustically as good as having the music come from beneath and then resonate in the space. But lofts and galleries, because the ancient gallery of Hagia Sophia in Constantinople was not for a choir, but it was the Empress's gallery. Theodora hung out there. That was her gallery. But so when you think about that, we have a choir loft in our church here in Marin, which basically, could see 25, 30, 40 people. And there was a choir up there at one time, maybe of 10 or 15, 20. And then it dwindled as people got older and couldn't climb the stair because it wasn't an elevator. So eventually we brought the choir down, which was musically better. And we were also trying to promote congregational participation, because liturgy, the Greek word liturgy, means the work of the people. Liturgia means the work of the people. So God forbid, in those books that Holy Cross and St. Vlad's and Narthex Press publishes, it doesn't say choir, priest, deacon, but it says priest, deacon, and people. So the choir is really the people. So what happens with those lofts, though, overflow, and this happens that we have a loft in Valley Forge. They use it for overflow, and the kids go up there with their families because they can see the whole service. They don't have these giants standing in front of them. So anyway, but but there was a lot of discussion about that, and a lot of discussion about making the church prominent and visible, because you've got a gorgeous piece of land, and right now your church is kind of overshadowed by the biggest hall in town. So anyway, I thought there was a lot of good discussion. I don't know, Father or Tom, if you felt the same way.
Yeah,
For sure.
I think it was
Definitely.
very much that. I didn't mention when we were introducing, but Kimberly already. So I neglected to mention her.
That's okay. Thank you.
No, you gave Kimberly at our Thursday night meeting a special pass to be virtual, because
Right.
she was going to be at the church during the daytime and not taking two trips. So no,
You
I
have
saw
such
her
a good
there.
memory. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
So anyway.
Oh, and we also have Fatin Deeb. And so
Chris.
she's also on the Capital Campaign Committee. And being married to Haitham, she's a ombudsperson who does everything. And she's also
First lady.
the First Lady. First Lady, yes. Oh, I like that. Also chair of the Trinity Learning Center. So she wears a lot of hats.
Oh, wow. Did she cater the dinner that you FaceTimed me at from last time?
Yes.
In that gallery space with that museum, that red museum piece. That was beautiful. Yeah.
All right.
I truly wish I could be with you, but
Yeah.
it is what it is. But as Papu used to say, we take lemons and we make either lemonada or avgo lemono.
Okay. All right. Great, Chris. So we're here. I think Haitham is also coming.
Yes.
He's on his way. He had it just coming from the hospital. So if you want to just kind of lead us through the presentation.
Yeah. Well, anyway, this is kind of the introduction to the talk, but in the center of our focus is really how do we take our expertise and experience and focus it on Holy Trinity Greek Orthodox Church in Egg Harbor Township. I got township right. And emblematic of that is that in this little grid of photographs, in the upper left corner is St. Sophia and Valley Forge, which you all must be familiar with, or you should be familiar with. Then this is the new bell tower we did at Holy Cross recently in Brookline, Mass, Boston Brookline border. Then we did a church in Braintree, Mass. That, I mean, these are just samples of different kinds of churches and styles. Then we did the cathedral in the lower left corner at Columbia, South Carolina. And then we did the Metropolis Center in Denver with Metropolitan Isaiah. The thing is, it's interesting is that, this is all over the country, and the next image will kind of give you kind of a perspective. And I think the perspective kind of speaks to, at least we have a focus that has highly deep in terms of our experience and working with clients successfully, whether it's as some of my friends call it, the left coast versus the East Coast, and then everything in between, whether it's Texas or whether it's Florida, whether it's the Carolinas or Chicago, Indianapolis, New England, New Jersey, Washington, Pennsylvania, Toronto. I mean, we've worked all over North America, and we even did a chapel design for a winery in Hanya Creek. So we work, and we have, not only does it say that, okay, we have a sense of what's going on, we have a sense of what we're doing, but also I'm licensed in 22 states. So technically, and I grew up on the East Coast, so issues of freeze thaw, moisture, all the kinds of things that are issues of region like East Coast, we're very knowledgeable about. But that gives you kind of at least a little bit of a background of what we do, and you could go to our website, of course, and check these things out. So the next image is basically focusing on you guys and the fact that here you are in Egg Harbor Township, not too far away from Atlantic City in New Jersey. And next slide goes to just showing your parcel, your beautiful parcel. You've got a beautiful piece of land. And one of the things that came up in our conversation today was the whole issue of floodplains and water and this and that. And we're going to do some research on that because there was some suggestion that there may be some issue with, because we're going to be looking at, the focus is going to be rebuilding this building. But the other alternative yardstick that we're going to be trying to measure it against is a new building. So one suggestion was that maybe that might not be possible given any coastal requirements, et cetera. So we're going to check that out when we meet with the building officials of the township this week, hopefully. And Father has a good relationship there with those people, and we'll be able to at least put our nose under the tents and make nice and sort of figure out what some of the constraints might be. And there are lots of ways of skinning a cat, but I just mentioned that as an issue. And we've got a work plan worked up and a schedule, and the next slide kind of shows that, just in terms of orientation and startup, goals, needs, requirements, analysis of existing site and building, development of alternative possibilities. Options are key here, looking at options, but then also related to options, task 5 is costing and making sure that we understand the implications. And that's why we're so intense about getting data and information about what was built, because it was clear when we started the conversation this morning, there was a lot of different collective memories of what's there, but we're going to sort that out, and we're going to find out what's there, because to be able to effectively reuse what's there, we're going to have to know how strong it is, how it was built, what its capability is, issues of cracking that's happened in certain areas, taking a look at those things from a structural and technical standpoint. But when we have those options and we have the costs, we're going to work with you to look at the pluses and minuses and evaluate it. Like when you look at a consumer report page, when you're going to buy a washer and dryer or a flat screen television, that has the pluses and minuses, and it tells you. We work the same way, so that in the end, we can then zero down and then get a concept. The task 7 is that we're going to be producing materials and graphics for meetings to help you better understand. The adage of one picture is worth 1,000 words. And then I had a professor in school that used to say, well, one model, architectural model is worth 1,000 pictures. So, but the point is pictures are good, and we might even be able to do some models, but we're going to do 3D computer models in a way as we go along. So once we make that decision, we can refine that concept. We'll create some additional graphics for fundraising and communications. We're going to be feeding you images and things for communication all the way through the process. So I don't know whether, Tom, you've appointed a communications component, but that to me is a very critical element that we need to talk about and appoint, because they're going to be the metronome on top of the piano. They're going to keeping the beat and feeding information out. And again, so far what you've been doing is fantastic. And then we're going to also get some pricing on this from some contractors, which in this environment is going to be challenging because everybody is busy and dizzy and all that kind of stuff. But we've worked through that effectively, most recently in Omaha, and I'm sure we can do it here in Atlantic City. And with the help of Frank and people who know the network here, we'll be able to find some people to give us pricing at a conceptual level, and we can cite many different projects that we did this with. We did it with Valley Forge. We did it with Erie, Colorado, where we did this. We got pricing. We could interview the best three, see what the chemistry was, see what their pricing was, and then pick a contractor, decide on an option, and get it into the process for final fundraising. So that's how stage one is, sort of to give birth, and then stage two is to refine and to cost. So that's kind of everything you wanted to know about what we're going to do, but we're afraid to ask. And this is all memorialized in a contract that we have with you. Also, we have some specific tasks about fundraising that we can help you at least share our experience with fundraising. And also we have some time we have unofficial time that Dean Lascaris, who's the chairman of the committee and the president of the community when St. Sophia was built, is a CPA. He is extremely knowledgeable, and he will both do some structured learning with us, but also will be available to you at any time if you have any questions that you have, that you're having about this or that or whatever. But fundraising is a very delicate process, especially in Greek Orthodox parishes. And Protestant and Catholic parishes is kind of a norm and it's accepted. But why are we doing this, and why is somebody telling me I have to give and all that kind of stuff? There's a lot of challenges in terms of how you approach the parish. So those are things we can talk to you about and help you with. So next image.
You want to, does anyone have any questions about this?
Yeah, please, I'm sorry. Anytime, please interrupt me.
Just on that whole graphic, what we're dealing with right now in this phase are the first three blocks. Is
Right.
that correct?
That's what we exactly correct. We're trying to get enough information to jump into developing options. Although we have a sense when we came before today of a range of options, which you're going to see examples of just as broad brush. But today's meeting this morning, and I'm sure today's discussion with you all, there might be even more options. So, but the idea is that 1 through 3 lead to the immaculate conception, so to speak, of many options, and then from those options we can sort and create costing. But that's the focus is 1, 2, 3. You're absolutely right.
And those first three blocks represent 12 to 14 weeks worth of work. So you can see how much more work is ahead and how much longer it's going to take.
Well, actually, the first 3 blocks are going to be probably 4 weeks.
Right. So sorry, Frank, this is like 0 here to 4 here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So that's where we are now.
Okay.
And then the total will be about 14 to 16 weeks.
Exactly. Yeah.
And what do we have?
Wait, is this the schedule for just this?
Just this
phase?
phase, yeah.
Oh, I thought this was
Yeah.
a project.
And just to be
No,
clear,
no. No, in fact, we can, and we can put this in context of the total project as well, because, you know, we understand for a size and the type of project this is, what you could expect, but we might want to do that just to show you phase 3, which is the actual, you know, detailed drawings and implementation.
right, we when we did the design of this with the RFP, we called stage 1 was the design and budgeting, the selection of kind of the one, and deciding on the one kind of direction and creating the budget. And then also establishing the contractor would be kind of part of that too. And then stage 2 was shovel in the ground, permitting, shovel in the ground to the end. So this represents the first only, right? So it's a 14 to 16 weeks. So yeah, and so as we're kind of in orientation, I think our rebuilding committee has been oriented a bit. This is now for the rest of us, but we are in this kind of analysis and development of possibilities. You've already started that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But the realism of you know, those possibilities really comes from, you know, getting good information. But anyway, yeah. So here we are at the scene before the acoustical material came down, but the first step is obviously defining goals, needs, and requirements. So and just a caption of, and this is something for everybody to think about, but this was just to get the ball rolling. The goals that we could see from our vantage point here is create a vision and a plan that maximizes. Now, a vision is really kind of what is the end result that you want to see and create as a focal point. And then the plan is how you get to that vision, but also what is the reality of that vision in terms of a physical plan. And so that we then say, we want to maximize function and safety. We want to maximize the Orthodox ethos. An Orthodox church is not a Protestant church or not a Catholic church, but there's a certain ethos. We want to make sure we maximize cost effectiveness and we create value added with whatever we do. And then the other is that we want excellence within the means of the parish, within the means of affordability. So this was something just to get you all starting to think about what goals, and obviously there are sub captions of these goals, but also there could be other goals that you could add. But this was just from our perspective, being able to put something on the table that you could react to. Then we also said, okay, well, for where we are, the game board, the monopoly board of Holy Trinity at Harbor Township, what do we have? Well, we have a church that with the sanctuary and the support and whatnot is about 7,700 square feet. Then we have a church that also seats around 210 people. And then the hall component, which is the phase 2. So you have the phase 1, the daycare and the hall itself comes to about 33,800 square feet, and then 172 parking spaces. So, you know, you have a beautiful piece of land. So that, you know, that was kind of at least a guidepost for us to sort of think about, because the number of the square footage that you have in the church temple as it stands now is not off for a parish. But the question really starts to become an issue of aspiration in terms of the number of stewards you have, and then what do you see about growth? Because what we're seeing is that in other parts of the country, there's growth factors, because it's not that we're bringing more immigrants from Greece or Serbia or the Middle East, but there's a huge amount of Orthodox by choice coming into parishes. This parish I described to you in in Omaha, is that the parish basically 70% of them are Orthodox by choice. They became Orthodox either through chrismation or baptism because they wanted to be Orthodox. 30% are ethnic Greek, Serbian, Antiochian, you name it, Russian. So we're seeing a pattern of many more people wanting to come into Orthodoxy, and that's something to take into consideration. So the issue of kind of like right now, when we go into the base program, we're sort of talking about a base of around 200 seating or standing, however you want to count it, and then some additional, a gallery space can have anywhere between 49 and 80 some odd spaces of seats in it. So you could get close to 300. Valley Forge was officially 350 seats, but for the Theranixia, for the opening of the doors, we had about 650 people in that building. I mean, it was because, so there is breathing room, there's room, but all I'm saying is that there is an issue of saying how many, what do you want to be when you grow up as a parish? Because there's a archdiocese and metropolis guideline that says that one priest to 200 families is kind of a limit. And then when you go beyond that, you need additional help, or you need to form another parish someplace. So there's that question in terms of driving the capacity of the church, or if you can have possibilities where you can sustain a certain amount of people in church all the time in terms of, let's say, every Sunday, with exception of vacations and stuff, you get 250, and then you have the possibility of that gallery space to be overflow. And then obviously you never design a church for Pascha or for special feast days or Panias, but in Omaha, we had this incredible phenomena where there was this fixation about 350 seats because they always thought about the big fat Greek wedding, and that their past weddings, were for 300 people. They had invited 300 people. So that became, even though the parish, they're going to be building a church of 250, expandability to 300, but they are also, right now 110 stewards, but they're growing, and they're in a shopping center chapel. So the point is, there's some things to think about in terms of capacity, but the next series of slides deal with the program, I think. Well, this shows the validation. This shows the validation of the 210 seats based on current codes and stuff like that. And then this plan is not, we've corrected this plan, but didn't quite make it into the presentation. But thanks to Frank and to Tom. But the idea is that this was a very good discussion point for the group this morning, because there was a lot of interesting discussion about how things were built and where there's cinder block and where there's not cinder block and all that kind of stuff. So, but this is the plan of your church now, which is basically a faceted kind of almost rotunda with support space wrapped around it.
Right.
And then the program, and this is just a draft, and this is in your committee's hands to review, kick tires, scrutinize. But what we do is we take spaces moving from the outside to the inside. So the exonarthex is the western porch, and it's the place where you enter the church. So you think about the progression in an Orthodox church like coming off of a freeway. You're coming off of a secular freeway, and you have the off-ramp, and then you're going into the local streets. So you're progressing from a very fast speed to a slower speed. So the idea is being prepared for when you end up in the nave or God's house. So basically exonarthex, and then when Father proclaims the doors, in the old days, if you were not baptized, you went out to the doors, or the catechumens even had to stand in the narthex. And then you have the exonarthex. Then the narthex is the place where candles are lit. There's proscenitaria for veneration of icons, and there's greeting, and this is really another place where many churches we're working with now have specific greeting committees, and they say hi to people. I can remember when I was going to undergraduate school in Boston, I used to want to go to Greek Orthodox churches in Boston, but it was like the most off-putting situation. You walked into the church and nobody said anything to you. And then they even looked at you like you were going to, rob the candles or I mean, it was a very off-putting, not friendly environment. So now there are lots of things that we're doing in churches to promote a sense of interaction and greeting. And obviously there's always going to be that 76er score or the football,
Patriots.
the Patriots.
Oh,
but the
Our
point is that
Eagles. Our
the
Eagles.
narthex is your foyer where not only do people make that transition and light candles and put something in the basket, but also you greet people and make them feel that they're welcome in God's church, God's house. Then the Cry Bride is a place where, again, a child can cry, a mother can nurse, and also a bride could not so much dress there, but at least fix herself before she walks down the aisle. Also, that we use it as a comfort room so that at funerals and other kinds of events, you can console people. We provide plenty of storage, both storage in specific storage, but also parish council space for all the paraphernalia. And then we also combine it usually with music so that you have books and a small copy machine so music can be copied and all that kind of stuff. Then we provide 2 unisex toilets, not necessary by code, but a good convenience for both more senior people as well as like me, as well as mothers with child, changing. So there's a changing station that pops out and all that kind of stuff. And then again, more storage. So we have that stuff. Then we go further into the church and we show seating. In this case, we're saying 200 in the nave. We have other seating options as well. 20 plus for the choirs and the chanters, room for the bishop's throne, a solea that really kind of works. And again, the solea, we go from 0 steps to 2 steps, but whatever it is, we want to make sure that, it makes sense in terms of going from one place to another, and also just access, ADA access. There have been some cases where we've been challenged to put ramps in, but we've figured out ways of not having to do a ramp. And obviously, Father could go to the edge of the soleas and administer communion, so it makes it an easier task. So a space usually like to provide for the epitaphio, and then you go into the yaroa, the altar space. We like to position the altar space in a way where there's enough room to move around the aya trapeza. So when Father is sensing it, he's not banging into walls or chairs or things that would hurt him, but also make the function not as beautiful as it should be. We also like to put a seating in the apse, which is almost like a synthronon, a place even for the bishop with altar boys or visiting priests. But again, the idea of organizing seating back there, and then having the protheses and the diconicon, table of preparation, and the symmetrical table on the other side, which is used for storage. And then vesting area, which we provide, a reasonable amount of space for vesting the cabinets, providing also Father the ability to both fold as well as hang his vestments. Good vestments you never want to hang, you want to fold because the threads will sag. So there's stuff like that. And then also either in the vesting area or in the acolytes area, we put in an honofdinion. In Catholic Church, they'll call it a sacorium. It's where holy water can go, or the cleaning of communion vessels, but anything that is sacred goes into that drain, which goes into a dry well into the ground somewhere near the church. The other more utilitarian cleaning goes in a regular sewer. So I had one municipality once say, "Oh, you put baptismal water. You guys anoint, don't you?" I said, "Yes." "Well, that means oil, right?" I said, "Yes." And he says, "Well, we should consider whether we should make you put in an oil interceptor for baptism for myrrh." I mean, it was so ridiculous. So we got around that. But I mean, geez, it's amazing how sometimes bureaucracies become, it's like the snake eating its own tail. And then we have a restroom. We have the acolytes area, which is symmetrical to the vesting area. And then this is where, as an altar boy, you get to plot your day and have fun. And then a restroom, which again is generally not required to be ADA accessible, because we make the rule that an Orthodox priest cannot be handicapped. So usually we can get away from doing a handicapped restroom. So we take all those areas, combine them together, put what we call a gross factor. The gross factor is, you have the net area, which is the clean area of the room, and then you have to put some factor in for walls and other kinds of things. And because the church is a very substantially open space, you have less gross factor than on other kinds of building types. So you end up with a 5,200 square foot program, which checks out with our experience. And then we've given you options like a bell tower, a gallery loft for 49 seats. Now, why 49? Because we don't need an elevator and you could do one stair. When you go beyond 49, you have to do 2 stairs, but you can go up to almost 100 in the loft. So 2 stairs is perhaps not a big premium. Adult baptistry, this is something that I feel is so important, because you can say, well, we don't use it. Well, when I see parishes pull out cattle troughs, or remember Eon Miller in the Big Fat Greek Wedding in the kiddie pool, and Constantine, the wonderful man who passed away recently, the father said, got good news for you. You're going to be Greek Orthodox, and Nikki is going to be your nuna. That was so funny, but it's not funny, because when somebody makes a decision, when I saw my first adult baptism in the church that we designed in Las Vegas, in a specially designed adult baptistry, I didn't know the person that was being baptized, but I had tears in my eyes, because this person made a conscious decision to take a fork in the road. And she was doing it in a dignified manner, and it's quite beautiful. So that is something that I say that even if you don't think you're going to use it, you should have it, because it's an invitation. You're inviting people to become Orthodox. And then we also do things like exedras, which are elements that sort of fit on the sides, the north and south edge of which give you good sight lines, but also additional space. So you could have an additional 126 seats there. And then, so the total options become 16, almost 1,700 with the 1,500. So you're close to the 1,700 or 7,000 square feet, which right now your footprint certainly accommodates. So, I mean, but the idea here is that from an analytical standpoint, we've dissected the functions of the church for a parish that we think you approximate. And these numbers can change up and down, because not every parish is the same. And you may say you have some other ideas, but the idea of putting something on paper called draft that you can react to is kind of a very important step for us. So I don't know if there's any comments or questions or thoughts about what I just defined for you.
Questions or? So Chris, what do you expect us to do now with this draft list?
Walk through it, ask questions, challenge it. And then at our, I'd like at our next meeting to be able to sort of walk through it, so that we can, sort of kind of solidify what you want to be when you grow up, and what you want the church to do for you.
Okay, so we may actually want to walk through the existing structure too, because we have, one of the things I mentioned this morning was we actually have spaces for a lot of what you identified. You know, we have a bathroom, we have storage, we have.
Oh, yeah, no,
all
no,
of the things.
but here's what I would like you to do. I'd like you to review this independently. Then what we'll do, with that being the demand, the supply or the opportunity lies within that existing structure. Because I don't want you to make programmatic compromises, because if you have the capacity to accommodate these things, that's fine. But why don't you create your wish list for Santa separately, and then we can apply to the church.
There are costs associated with this wish list?
The question was, is there cost associated with these items? Like,
Well,
of course there are, but how do you calculate
How do you
that?
assess value?
Well, no, well, the issue becomes that what you want to do is say that if these are, because what you can do is you can prioritize. You can say, well, we don't need an adult baptistry because we don't do any adult baptisms at Egg Harbor. And I would at least respectfully try to explain to you why you may not have needed it in the past, but you may need it in the future. Now, adult baptistry has a certain cost factor. Any amount of square footage is going to have a square foot, factor. But I think what you want to do is create your list, prioritize the list. We can apply it into the existing shell. We can apply it within the yardstick church that we're going to create. And then what you do is you then can make a decision about the trade-offs, because we're going to put costs on those solutions. Not all, for example, the acolyte and server areas are probably some of and some of the support and storage areas are a parish council choir, those are, not huge costs. The biggest costs get into the nave and the sanctuary and those kinds of spaces where you've got a little bit more going on. So it's not a very useful exercise programmatically to try to put costs on the program right now, because it's an abstraction. I think it's better to say, this is what we want. We understand what our priorities are in terms of, what we have to have. You have to have, you should have an exonarthex. You should have a narthex. You should have a nave. There's certain metabolics that you need. And those kinds of things. So the options, the baptistry is an option, the loft is an option, and it could be that, when we apply things like the seating and in the loft to maybe the roof because there was a lot of discussion today about, from the founders, about the roof, the flat roof being a big problem. And can you consider a slope roof? And then the other corollary discussion was, well, if you have that space around the main rotunda, could you have a gallery or a loft up there? So those are kinds of things that we would explore in design, but the basic directive as a program is to tell us what you think you need and what your priorities are within those lists. And
We have two questions. We have Frank and then Dory.
Chris, many of the, in the RFP, we had a wish list. And I assume that much of what you have here is based on that wish list.
oh, of course, yeah, but because what you had in the RFP was not, it was not out of whack.
Okay. Just want to make sure that we did put a lot of thought into that beforehand.
Right.
And that, yes, there are things we didn't think of, like the baptismal font.
Yeah, but that's why, I mean, and again, Frank, I don't have the RFP open right now, but the point is I'm sure we based it upon what you asked and also what our experience is.
So our next meeting, then we will put our RFP, this list together and start going through and prioritizing.
That would be excellent. That would be terrific.
Okay. Dory?
Chris, my question is, we currently have a small alcove kind of St. Nectarios chapel. Are we thinking about how that would be incorporated?
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, I think that's something that we should incorporate. And we, that's something, thank you for bringing it up, but that's something we should just put into the program because I just think that, that is a very worthy chapel or niche. And I think we should probably call that out. Absolutely.
Father George?
Chris, just to save you time on that, that's something that has to stay. There's a long history behind that chapel, and there were families that made large donations for it. That has to stay. We can talk about the details later,
I
but
mean,
the chapel.
just having it, not the way
Doesn't have to be in
it is.
that spot.
No, not exactly the way it is, but it has to stay.
It has to be
We-
included.
Yeah, no, I agree. Programmatically,
history
Yeah,
behind that chapel.
Right.
And I'm putting
Yeah,
a bid in for a chapel for the Virgin Mary. So that's, I've been a proskinitario or something for the Virgin Mary so that we can have her.
well, we did, as you probably know, for of those of you that are on our website, we did the Shrine of Saint Nectarios in Covina, and that was the first American church parish to use Saint Nectarios' name, and they have this small rib in a reliquary. So we have a shrine area that's a niche that you could walk around to the left of the Yaro, and to the right is an Anabaptistry. But there are plenty of in Washington D.C., St. Constantine and Helen. We have a shrine of St. Nicholas on one side and a shrine of the Pania on the other side. So there are all kinds of ways that we can do it. And the question really becomes, when you talk about a chapel, how would you define a chapel? And because is it good enough to have an indent, recess or an exedra, sort of an apsoidal form that would have icons of Saint Nectarios and whatever proskinitaria and stuff like that in it, or does it have to be a separate room? So I'm not asking you to tell me right now, but those are things that you should be thinking about in terms of what is a chapel or a shrine at Holy Trinity in Egg Harbor Township.
Right, okay. Any other questions on this?
I just have one more question about how the entrance and basically the entrance and, how that might change. I mean, I think that's really important, the current situations.
The facade, you mean?
No, not the facade, like
How
the
you-
the
how you
entrance,
drive up
this,
and
how you
drop
drive up, is there I don't know. The landscaping, the entrance, the stairs.
Maybe Tom, if you could slide back to an aerial shot of the size of the current complex. Okay.
This?
Yeah, this one's good because here's the interesting thing is that there's your entranceway to your church.
Right.
Every single church that we design, from scratch, we create a drop off at the front door. Now your drop off is off to the side. You see where the hall is and whatnot. So that's one issue. And I'm assuming that the church is oriented easterly, Father?
It is, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, because the top is north, so you're kind of southeast. And guess what? You're in the company of the great churches of Constantinople. Those churches, Hagia Sophia, Sergius and Bacchus, Irene, Holy Apostles, when it was built, all face southeast. It appears like you're south of east, which is great. You're in good company. So, but my point being that, you see, usually what will happen is that there's a drop off in front of the door of the, right into either the front or a platea that announces the church. And right now, it looks like you have,
We have two steps. We have like a large,
Yeah.
three steps.
Yeah, but it's not.
Yeah, they're not sequential.
It's
They're like terraced.
Yeah, so I mean, the point being that that's something that's going to want to be looked at least, just to make it as good as can be. But you want to be able to deliver Yaya, Papu, the kids, and somebody that's, handicapped and also the bride and the hearse and the coffin and the bishop and there's a certain kind of relationship of car to entrance to the church that needs to be thought out.
And part of the problem here is that driveway entrance off of Mill Road, which is in the wrong place relative to the front of the church.
Uh-huh.
Mill
Yep.
Road entrance has to go away so that we can develop. Maybe the main entrance has to be off of Ridge so that we can develop a cul-de-sac or something around the front of the church.
Yeah.
How
Well,
many-
those are kinds of things that we can really look at, but in the concepts of rebuilding that on the footprint that we have, the church is not going to go anywhere. And depending on when we talk to our building code officials in terms of what constitutes a renovation versus the new, and what were some of the rumors that we heard today about the fact that there are certain issues of floodplain, but there seems to be plenty of buildings across the street in a floodplain. That's something we don't know about, and we'll have to talk to them about.
We know that within a mile or so of the church, there are some wetlands.
Okay, well,
I can't speak of the immediate neighborhood.
yeah.
That would have-
Well, but here's a good one because again, that drop off, you see, there's a wonderful drop off for the hall. And then there's handicap parking spaces, but to go to the church, it means that I have to be dropped off and then I have to then walk around. And we'll have to, and you're saying that there's an elevation difference there?
Between where?
Yeah.
Between this here,
Yeah.
here.
Yeah,
There's 3
Yes.
steps.
okay. We do things 3 times as Orthodox, right?
And the ramp on the side. Tom.
Oh, and the ramp is here.
Yeah.
There's a
Yeah,
ramp.
okay. Just because, okay, so those are kinds of things that we have to really consider, because the other issue is that you want to make people feel welcome, whether they're healthy or whether they're handicapped.
Right. Okay.
They're not just a gerbil on a ramp, right? Okay, so those are kinds of things that we'll be looking at, and then okay, so we keep going. So, and here's your current situation with the exposed structure. And the assumption is that the outside membrane is also sprayed on insulation.
The outside membrane right now is a rubberized. It was, what was the,
There was bad insulation inside, which has all been removed. The roof is currently uninsulated.
we have no insulation now.
No insulation, so it's kind of naked, huh?
Yeah. That's just simply a fire resistant paint, correct?
Yes, the outside, Bob can,
It was Hypalon resistant paint.
Hypoline under
Hypalon,
Hypalon
like nylon.
was the original. We put,
That's what's on there
we also put fiberglass on it,
Fiberglass.
and now there's a rubber membrane
Right.
that we painted on. Right before COVID hit.
Liquid coating.
Yeah.
It's a rubberized coating.
Okay, get it. That's good information. So anyway, so this kind of gives you a sense of the Trinitarian format of Bucky Fuller's geodesic dome. So the part of the analysis in terms of, as I explained before, about having an understanding of what we have, obviously the footprint and the functions that exist now, the structure, which is really critical, which starts in the foundation system sitting in the earth that you own, the image and the systems. So those are all things that we'll be looking at what we have, what we can reuse, and what we have to basically part company with. And the basic kind of structure is the geodesic dome sitting on a 1-story, flat roofed, or sitting within the flat 1-story. And then we said, okay, well, the range of possibilities for rebuilding you say that what we could do is build off of the walls that we have now, and maybe also truss the ceilings or wrap the roof so that we have a pitch roof and a dome structure that would sit upon the configuration. And there's plenty of examples in history of churches that are polygons in Orthodoxy. Sergius and Bacchus, San Vitale in Ravenna, so Sergius and Bacchus in Constantinople, San Vitale in Ravenna, Italy, most beautiful mosaics you'd ever want to see.
Rotunda in Thessaloniki, right?
Yeah, it was that St. George Rotunda, plus also St. Euphemia of the Hippodrome, which is a hexagon, which we based the Church of St. John the Baptist in Las Vegas on. So polygons are not anything. In central churches, you're part of the family of the central church, which is the family of Hagia Sophia, where the dome is a prominent element. The problem in the past has been that some people react negatively to central churches because, like in Oakland, it's basically a dome without a building, or it's in some places like in Green Lawn, Long Island, it's like a sports arena that has beautiful mosaics on the inside. But what I'm saying is that by virtue of working with the grain of the facets of the polygon, you can create a beautiful structure. So one option is A1, the other option A2, I think.
Yeah.
Just remember, this is a 15-sided space.
Yeah, that's okay. We're not as scared. I mean,
Okay.
the ACE game would say
It's an odd number, 15.
basically you don't do anything other than repair what you have. So I mean, if you do that, this is kind of like what you have. Then the B scheme says, well, you slope the roof and then you create a drum, and obviously that drum. And one of the discussions this morning came up with, well, couldn't you raise that higher so that it was, the most, was more prominent than the hall? And that was an interesting sort of discussion that pursued. But again, in this case, slope roof, dormered windows, which is very much in Byzantine tradition. Next is again a version of that in CAD, and then C1, which is a flat, keep the flat roof and then just put a dome. But this is almost as though we took a dome from a different building and put it on top of this flat roof. I think they have to be integrated somehow. Next, the flat roof with a dome, and then create a slope roof with an entranceway that articulates with raising up the base a little bit so that you had a little bit more room and more breathing room and a little bit more prominence. And again, these are just, and then a different version of that, but these are just starting the process with knowing what the footprint is, but not knowing about the technology that we can use to support it, and also without having the specifics of your program, which takes our draft, your RFP, the synthesis of discussion with your committee, and then we'll have a program that we can then apply onto this footprint. But there's going to be a whole range of options that are rebuilding options. Then we're going to develop one that's going to be the yardstick scheme that will be, if you were doing this from scratch new, what it would look like. And these are just examples. This is a church we did in Concord, California, which is basically a rotunda, but it works out very well, and it was reasonably cost effective, and it's that kind of more round. And then St. Sophia and Valley Forge, which is kind of a polygon, but it's articulated with a cross and appendages for the altar, for the exedra, for the narthex. So it becomes that kind of expression. Then we got Saco, Maine. Again, this is more of a cross and square church, but a very simple. And this one has a stone base, and it's clad in cedar shingles, which hundreds of years of buildings in Maine and Massachusetts, Marblehead and Nantucket, have, but they couldn't afford stone. And we detailed it so they could add stone later. But then after they had it up for a while, people said, oh, this is so beautiful. This is all part of the culture of Maine, but yet, you know, we course the shingles in like Byzantine stone, and we have a beautiful copper dome and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, they decided in their main sense of frugality, I think, but also they were getting such great compliments, they'd never pursued the idea of covering it in stone. That's Saco, Maine. Then in Durham, North Carolina, right near Duke University, for you basketball fans, you know, this is St. Barbara's. And again, these churches all are of similar size, 250 to 350 range. But interesting little points of tidbit. The dome of this church is titanium nitrate. It's stainless steel. You can get it in gold, bronze gold. You can get it in Grecian blue if you want. But the beauty of this material is that it lasts. The lab test of Lawrence Livermore Labs in Berkeley tested this material for about 200 years. It's got a 200-year life to it, because it's not a baked down finish, but the surface of the stainless is changed so that it prismatically reflects the gold color. And don't ask me what the formula for it is, but it lasts forever, and it becomes a pretty strong, iconic kind of situation. So anyway, and then in another part of the country, this is El Paso, Texas, St. George, again, stone and stucco. And this was an octagon church. You can see the octagon base, and again, it's got a copper dome, and the hall is down, you know, a few steps away from the hall in the education building. But again, we will take the options, we'll take the program, we'll give you possibilities, pluses and minuses. We'll select the best 2 or 3. We'll do costing on it, and we have a great cost database. Although in today's economy, the challenge is that things are changing so rapidly and radically. But we're on top of those things, and we'll be able to sort of give you, based upon the solution, the program, and whether it's rebuild or whether it's new, what those costs are. And then, you know, again, looking at the analyzing again the costs and benefits of doing one thing versus the other. We're going to have some discussions. Also, we're going to work with you, as I mentioned before, on fundraising and seeing how we can help you do the best you can do. And there, I actually go back to this. That there's the Father George. There are your 3 steps up to God's house, right off of the driveway there.
Mm-hmm.
But that's one of the challenges, to really deal with how you get onto the plateau in front of the church, and you know, does it mean for a wedding, does the limo sit right on the curb of the driveway?
Yes,
No, it doesn't.
Okay, and then the same with the hearse,
yes.
Yeah, sometimes we use the ramp, it all depends.
and then the bishop's limo parks right there.
Right in front, yeah.
Okay, I get it. Okay. Okay. Then through this process, to facilitate communications, we're going to have materials, graphics and stuff, which is another task, but I think it's very important to emphasize that. This happens to be this actually is a project that is the Faith Heritage Center, with the chapel in the background. Before the curtain was a 50-seat chapel dedicated to Saint Fortini, and the patron saint of Faith Spanos was Saint Fortini. So the Spanos family gave most of the money for this project. Phase 2 is taking the concept, refining it, giving you more graphic and communication material for fundraising, finalizing the schedule, selecting a contractor, and getting the final costs put into package. So then we can march off into both fundraising and creating more detail in the design and for finalizing the construction. So the going from general to specific. Phase 1, we're doing the analysis, the research, the program, the goals, coming up with options and possibilities, putting costs on them, then picking one that we like the best, and makes the most sense for the parish, and then refining that and selecting a contractor. And again, the idea is that we go general to specific, and we have weekly meetings with your committee. And then as soon as I'm able to travel, I'll come back out. I'll come out to see you. Luckily, I've been to your church a few times, so it's not like I'm operating in a vacuum, but I wish I could be there with you right now. It's just this bone on bone thing is really getting ridiculous. And then,
Question, George, sorry.
So phase one leads to, is the 14 weeks that leads to this point?
No, this includes.
no,
That includes the 14.
And he's
Oh.
in our stage one,
Oh, I'm
broken
sorry.
it
I
into two
misunderstood.
phases.
Okay.
Yeah.
and then we just end with the witness I talked about in the beginning of the inside and the outside. This is the inside of our church of St. Constantine and Helen. And it's not that we got the Archbishop to pose, but somebody sent me these incredible photographs when he was in the liturgy. And so there's a witness, obviously, and the way light comes into the church is so important. We have seen the light, the true light. To you, the Father of sons, Son of sons. I mean, it's a Father of lights. I mean, there's so many references to light in our theology. We are going to work hard to harness that light for you. And then the outside, the next image is the dome of this church, also, which is more of a bronze color, copper color of titanium nitrate, but it also reflects the light of the sun. So you both receive the light, but you also reflect the light as witness to Christ's presence and mission. So that's everything that I have for you today.
Right. Questions? Yes, please. I'm going to put it on share, stop share.
We have some other contractors besides Bob Costi, who's a contractor here. We had a couple of other contractors who wanted to be here today and couldn't be here. And they wanted us to ask if it was possible to coordinate the identification of materials that they could then perhaps try and procure for donation.
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, I think that's something that we will get into once we get, we know what we're doing. Once we have a design and a vision. But I think also if those contractors able to build a building like this?
No, they're volunteering to try and help.
Procure materials.
But that would impact your phase one interaction with the contractors that are giving you prices.
Well, no, I think but that's something we could do a special Zoom with them, find out what they have in mind, and we can certainly create a list because we have we do for most of our projects something called a cut book, where we have products that we've defined. And if we can zero in on some of these products, we could organize, as long as it's organized. I think that's the important thing because, this is a unique building, but we can compartmentalize, make a list of these kinds of materials. If they have somebody who knows of anybody with titanium nitrate, these stainless steel, great. People who do ornamental, like the cross for the church has a certain technology to it. So we can define that, and we could have a meeting to sort of show them the kinds of ingredients that would go into a church like this and get their reaction, and then give them a shopping list.
I think that's what they were interested in. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think a Zoom would be the best way to do that.
Right. We also received last time steel from Nick Boris's company. They're a New Jersey, Pennsylvania company.
I know. I knew Nick, of blessed memory.
Right.
And everybody in the world wanted Nick to donate steel to them.
Well,
was
we received it, and we have the Boris. What is it? The Boris
The
Gymnasium. We
Oh,
named
wow.
that. Yeah. So we have that. you know,
Well, well, I mean,
Dollars worth of steel.
$200,000 worth of steel.
that's great. No, but what I understand is that Nick and his wife Anna, because we did the concept work, the design work for St. Anna's in northern Jersey. And he was a benefactor because His Eminence finally named, gave them permission to name it St. Anna's, which then, honored Nick's wife, Anna, who's a wonderful lady. And so he gave a lot of money and resources to that project, but you were very fortunate to get that. But now I think his kids have the foundation, and I think the Archdiocese even has challenges getting money out of them. But I mean, if you know of anybody, if you know any of the children, that would be the way to approach it in terms of.
Cassandra Romas, she runs the foundation, so.
Okay.
So we'll reach out to them again. Other questions? We have a lot of people, a lot of great minds, a lot of, intense and.
Saint Patrick already is having ideas. Saint Anna.
Yeah, Fatu, what?
Just joking, but well, said Anna. She wants to sing Batten now.
We're getting ideas.
I promise that that's a lot.
What's your baptismal name? Saint.
You mentioned fundraising. What is the best time to intensify the fundraising effort?
Well, I think the best time, first of all, there's groundwork, and we could do a separate conversation. I think it would be good because I think there's a preparation period, and what you want to do is be prepared, because the last thing you want to do is sort of go off in a direction that could contaminate the whole process. I mean, I've had situations where somebody said, well, this one priest, he was an Antiochian. He was a very wise man, of course. And he said, Christo, very simple. We take what we have in the bank, we subtract it from what the cost is going to be, and then we divide that up by the number of people that are going to give, and we go and ask them for the money. And that's the most foolish thing to do, because not everybody is on the same plane. What you want to do is you want to connect with people. So what you want to do is organize your committee and your effort so that you have the little teams. And the last thing you want to do is have a paid fundraiser go ask for money. You could have them coach you without a doubt. But the most resentful thing, the backlash that we get, is when somebody that brings a fundraiser with them and he's dressed up in his suit, spiffy suit, and he's asking Papu for some money. And Papu says, I'm not going to give you money because I don't know you. I know her. And if she tells me it makes a lot of sense, I may give you the money. But you see what I'm saying? So you've got to work the grain. So what I'm saying is there's a preparation period. But then what you don't want to do is you want to go out when you know what you're doing and you have the product and you have you can explain it to people and there's enthusiasm. So this process that we're going to be going through in terms of communicating with people, it's not only, we want to get people's input, but we want to get buy-in. We want to get people excited about where you're going. And when you do that, you're not going to have any problem with fundraising. This parish that we're working with, the image behind me in Omaha, their fundraising was 8 times stewardship. A fundraiser will tell you a good ratio is 5 times. They were 8 times. And there are 110 families, and they're going to build, a 28,000 square foot facility with the church and whole complex. So what I'm saying is that if you're prepared, chance favors the prepared mind, and leadership that's on time is already too late. So we have to be proactive about that, do the homework, have an image and a direction and a concept that's communicated to the people and gets people excited, because this is how often do you get a chance to give birth to God's house again? I mean, this is chapter 2 for you. And I think it's exciting. And I think that we can talk. I think what we can do is we can have a separate, I think it's a good idea to have a separate meeting about the materials donation and maybe a separate meeting on fundraising. And we can map out a strategy and have a plan for that, so that all these things are moving together And one's going to, obviously, the planning and design effort is going to feed material and thinking for the fundraising and for the communications. The idea of having the communications committee, and Mr. President, I don't think you were there when I was explaining that there are three committees with tracks we want to have: design and planning, fundraising, finance, and communications. And communications is like, the metronome that sits on the piano that goes tick tock, gives you the beat. That's going to give you the beat. And already what you've done, both in terms of announcing this weekend and also announcing my knee replacement, they've been fantastic, I think, in terms of communicating and being transparent. People want you to be transparent. And it's not Father and his cronies in a room plotting the future. We're all doing it together, Oli Mazi.
So
I don't know, does that help you, President?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And that's really the message that we're trying to convey, that it's for the church, for everybody. It's not just
Yeah,
planning it, it's the whole church planning it together. And the whole church has to participate in that faith from the beginning and throughout the process.
absolutely. And the thing for me though is that there's such excitement that comes into a community. I was telling a story this morning about I was going to the Theta Nixia, the opening of the church in Carmel, Indiana, another Holy Trinity. And I got on the airplane and I was sitting and I got bumped to first class because of the amount of travel I was doing pre-COVID. And the guy next to me said, "Hey, looks like you're an architect. You an architect?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "What are you?" He said, "I'm a lawyer." So that's good. I'm sitting next to a lawyer. Then he said, "You got to come to see in my neighborhood. I live in a place called Carmel. You should see what the Greeks have done there. They built the most gorgeous church you'd ever want to see." And I said, "Oh, really? Why do you say that?" "Oh, it's fantastic, blah, 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 blah. And since you're an architect, you should go see it." And I said, "Well, I'm going to see it." He said, "How come?" I said, "Because I'm the architect." So he kind of freaked out. He said, "Oh, that's fantastic." But when you can reach people where people have this connection to your now, obviously, they're connected to your site. They know you as a parish because you have festivals and this and that. But I have priests tell me that people come and take pictures. Families come taking pictures on weekends in good weather in front of their church because they say it's so beautiful. And the idea is that that's the witness and that's the outreach. Then there's obviously the inreach, because for those of you that worship in the church every Sunday and every feast day and every time you can go, it's another special experience. So to me, we're creating a spirit, and we're doing God's house. We're not doing a convenience store. We're not doing housing. We're doing a big house for God, and that's very special. You're all involved in a special task.
Chris, I guess the one thing I would like to nail down is how we can organize with our capital campaign. And we have our chairs here. Do you have a scheduled meeting time that you prefer? And then I know we can do logistics, but I guess I just wanted to check with you, Chris, and them. Is this something that we can just even set up now while we're here?
Yes, that would be great.
No, I think it'd be great to do a meeting, and in anticipation of the meeting, what I can do is I can share with you. We were doing the Denver Metropolis Center, which if any of you have been in Denver, look up Metropolitan Isaiah and go see the building, because it's a wonderful building. And people who go visit it say the building talks to them. It speaks orthodoxy. And Isaiah is a graduate not only of Holy Cross, but also of I think one of the Marine boot camps. He's a Marine graduate, Semper Fi, but he's a great guy. But the point being that we hit a stumbling block because he had picked a fundraiser that was kind of, remember in revolutionary America, there was the British soldiers wearing their red uniforms and the colonial patriots were hiding behind trees shooting at them, and the British marched in formation and they were being shot at by, well, that's what happened. They brought this fundraiser. He had his red uniform on, and people were not giving any money. So finally, that got changed, and we put together in a little workshop with the Metropolis a format, a kind of a way of looking at things. I can share that. It's kind of almost like a good textbook. And it was only, I'm not a fundraiser, but I've observed good experiences versus bad experiences. And I can at least share that with you. You can share with me anything that you've been doing before the meeting. And then we can have a meeting and have see if we can't do something that relates to your community that could be effective, because what you don't have many times to go up to bat for raising money. So you want to make sure you do it correctly and you've got the right approach. And the right approach to me is sizing up your community, figuring out what the grain of the community is, what the grain of the wood is, and using the right approach. Because my papu used to say that if you use the wrong tool to cut the wood, and it's, you're going to either ruin the wood or you're going to ruin the tool. So I think the idea is to sort of figure out what the grain is, what the strategy is, and design an approach. But I think that by having the spirit conveyed through the communications effort of what's going on and the things that are being talked about. And today was a great meeting with the founders, which, given the fact that they were involved in giving birth to a building, you would think that I would have expected they would have been maybe sometimes sensitive, but we were respectful, and it was a very positive, I thought, exchange. And that's what you want. You want the community to be on board because this is their church. It belongs to God, but they're all going to be part of the solution to create it.
Maria and Leah, do you have a kind of a next meeting that you're going to be at or that you're organizing?
Well, we're gonna have a meeting on Monday, and then we just reschedule it since since we're all here today, we can reschedule it, but I don't know what time, when is a good time for you that we schedule a Zoom meeting.
Well,
You
you need to talk a little. bit.
Yeah, okay, let's come up with our internal, and then we'll get in touch with you and then we'll organize it. So we'll
Well,
do
as Tom and Father can attest to, I'm very flexible.
he's-
We started 7:00 left coast time today, 10:00 your time. And whatever makes sense, we're flexible in terms of how we can meet with you. So
You can do
let's-
early
let's-
morning, you can do late evening. He's up all the time. He's like Nathan, never sleeps. all that kind of- So, yeah.
Okay.
All right, so we'll work on that. Does anyone have any response or reaction or any questions, any last, because based on the presentation? Any other comments?
I
Please.
have a question. There's a campanario right behind you in the church that you're designing in
Yes.
Nebraska. Is there a consideration to add one to our church?
It's an option in the, when you looked at that program, that's an option. See, I grew up in the Greek diner family. My father and Papu had diners. So not only did I get my bad habit of working 7/24, but also I'm a great believer in menus. So while we had what we thought was essential for your parish, we also gave you a series of options. And that could be very easily structured as an option or as an alternate. And I think that those are kinds of things. And then the question becomes, and that's more of a discussion, with fathers as well as the committee about whether you want real bells or whether you want electronics. I mean, both work, but the idea of having that lit up at night. And now we've developed some really cool ways that we can light the church building so that the whole place feels safer, and it's very economical because it's LED lighting, but the bell tower becomes a focal point. The dome is obviously the most critical thing to me because that's the symbol of orthodoxy. It's heaven on earth. It's a circle. It's eternity, and it brings light into the church. The bell tower was less orthodox in its way because remember the original bells were wooden bells. Then in Italy, they were producing metallic bells, and they were being produced in a place called Campania, Italy. So the Greek word for bell is cabana, from Campania. So these are interesting little cocktail party snippets. But so we've adopted those bells, and most of the bells, unfortunately, right now, the best, although there's some American companies, but some of the most beautiful bells come from Russia and from Ukraine. But anyway, but yeah, that could be part of the program. And also there are things that we looked at the fundraising program. There are things that people will donate. I find that people will love to donate iconography and artifacts, before they'll want to donate for the main meal. So it's the dessert before the main meal. But there's ways that we can sort of capture that spirit and build in some of the costs of the main meal into the dessert. So there are lots of ways of skinning a cat.
Okay, so any other final comment, Frank?
Yes, I want you to stand up, Chris, so we can see what's on your shirt.
So Chris, today I was saying, Tom Thomasulis at the end of the meeting, he's like, he wanted to ask a question. I heard him, I said, this is the most important question of the day. And Tom goes, where are you from in Greece?
And now Frank, same thing.
Frank asked the same question, the most important question of the day.
Well, the thing was that my answer should have been, my roots are not from Greece, but from Crete and from Mikrasia, Asia Minor. My father's family came from a village on the Sea of Marmara, just outside of Constantinople, across from Halki, called Tuzla. And my mother's family came from Hania, Crete. So Cretans and Constantinopolitans don't consider themselves necessarily Greeks, but everybody was called in the old days Romios. That you were from from the west, from Rome. So that's where the term Romiosini comes from. But anyway, it is we're Orthodox and we have a wonderful heritage, but we're seeing more and more parishes become mosaics, where you have both ethnicity plus the beauty of other people coming and appreciating the faith.
We're from that other Greek town called Astoria.
Astoria. There you go. That's true. Yeah.
All right. So I guess we're good. Chris, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, thank you guys for doing what you're doing, and I'm excited about working with you. And
Can we do? Go ahead. Sorry. Finish up.
No. I just really wish I could be with you, but we're taking lemons and making lemonade, right?
Can we do a? Can we all kind of gather together and we'll take a screenshot, and that way we'll throw it in our. So I'm gonna kind of be on the edge, unless we want to do it this way. Unless someone wants to take a selfie from that side. Yes. All right. Should we get everybody?
Yeah. Right here.
We can't see it.
Oh, where are we going?
Which way? Which one we want to do? Well, Maria's gonna take it.
I think you should do.
We'll do both.
I don't need to be in it, then
What's that?
better picture like that.
All right, let's everybody come this way
Yeah,
then.
but if you have to, then I think.
Tati's gonna take it, we'll leave them here.
Where do you want to go?
Here.
No.
I think we should go down. We should go down. I think you're right. There.
Yeah, be here.
Everybody
here.
Everybody come here. Let's just leave space so that we can see them.
I'm come over here. Frank.
I'm the best spot.
You are.
Okay.
Somebody gotta go in the middle.
Maybe from here.
Like that. We gotta.
Well, we're leaving them, I'm not sitting. I'm not gonna sit.
Oh.
Yeah, that's. We don't want to hide Chris, that's all. So that's all right.
And that,
No, we need the cheers.
you're actually in the picture.
Are you sick?
Yeah, you'll be in the picture. Oops, I pushed it.
You can see Kimberly, you can see Kimberly good.
Yeah, we see her and we see Chris.
Hold on, Walter's rearranging the furniture.
Again, yeah.
Yes. Right. I think we need some more, we need.
Oh, we
to-
get this.
Front end.
Hold on, let me do this.
1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3.
All right, back.
So it's
in.
you.
Do a selfie.
Maria will do the selfie.
Oh, okay, yeah, Maria will do a selfie.
She's really good at it.
Here.
Maria will do it. Patrick, come on in.
Do it sideways.
Come up front.
Timer on one of these phones?
Okay.
Oh, look at that, that's good.
We're good. Yep, we're good.
More horizontal landscape.
Do it sideways. Yeah.
Do the diagonal.
Here, come on, Maria, come here.
Pictures like the leaning tower.
Come in here.
There we go. All right, Maria coming in.
I need just Walter to go behind or.
The pros selfies.
Yeah. This is part of our communication. We're gonna share this.
No, very important. This is great.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Very good, we did it.
All right, Chris, Kimberly, thank you so much. We'll let you guys go. Bye, and we'll talk soon, all right? Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Yeah, she had a place.